Hi, I'm Mike Duggan. I've been teaching restorative dentistry for over 32 years now and to over 6,000 dentists. This video shows how I do it. Real-time, mannequin-based, hands-on, point of view, and patient real. If you are a pre-dental student, an aspiring teacher, an international dentist, join me at Duggan Oral Design, dugganoraldesign.com. Okay, so yeah, you'll have to go gingerly to get more clearance, but you got a little bit already. But it looks like you had a contact originally. I'm not positive about that, but it looks like you might have. And then we'll check the height of the wall at the marginal ridge, and you're probably a little bit deeper than you need to be, but you're close. But you're much shallower here than you are there, so maybe keep the end of the burr at the same level, all the way to the middle of the contact over here. And then at that level, find your margin. You got a pretty good clearance, but let's see if we can improve the exit angle a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, a little closer to 90, then make a nice gradual curve. Okay, on the lingual side, you have a little more clearance than you needed, but you're also a little bit acute.
Yeah.
So 90 degrees would be more like this. So I'd probably want to get a little bit deeper pulpally, but extend a little bit more lingually, and then recut that angle. Try to cut in at a 90-degree angle, but that means we have to get rid of some more undermined enamel, so I'm going to overextend lingually a little bit. And try to cut straight in at a 90-degree angle. About like this. So when you overextended lingually on your isthmus, that made it harder to get the 90-degree angle here. Okay, so at this point, and then don't forget when you're near the margin ridge, lean the burr this way. Not this way, but this way. Make sure you're looking the way I am so you see that you're leaning the burr that way. And then you'll get a wall that you can actually see when you're looking down the axis. Okay, now at this point, if you use the 55 burr, you could place a corner about here and a corner about here. Cut away from those walls this way and this way. And then, you know, you're going to go gingerly, very carefully. A little bit of time, get some more gingival clearance, but you'll have to work on it very gently. Okay, this is going to be really easy to get too deep gingerly. All right, keep working on it. Okay, so let's see. So when you go gingerly, you need to make sure that you retain the occlusal margins and angles. So you're cutting into this area a little bit too much right here. It's like you changed the curvature of the occlusal. We've got a fair amount of excess at the bottom of that wall. I think what I prefer doing is move the wall facially a little bit more at the occlusal level. Recut the angle inward so I'm happy with my exit angle. Find the margin, find the angle, get the length, make the curve, find the corner. Then make sure you just get rid of the excess all the way along to that margin. So you're matching the gingival part of the wall to the occlusal part of the wall. Then you get a flat wall all the way down to the gingival floor. And now look where your axial should have been, right? So you got pretty deep axially there. You also have the burr leaning distally, so it looks like you're trying to look down the axis. If you ever look down the axis, you're going to lean the burr into the adjacent tooth, undercut the axial wall, and overextend axially. Let's find the corner over here a little bit more accurately, maybe about right here. That's probably where the corner should have been, right there, matching this over here. But we go back to the occlusal, redo the margin in the occlusal part of the outline, then find the corner, then get rid of the excess to match the gingival part to the occlusal part. Now you can see where the corners should have been here and there, and then everything would have worked out better. Now, your gingival clearance is okay. But again, note the direction I'm looking. I'm looking so I see exactly how close I am to the adjacent tooth, right?
Yeah.
And I also see how deep I am axially, and those are what we have to see. Okay, so now you can use your hand instrument to try to put a retentive groove here. Try to put a retentive groove about right there. Angle the gingival flora, and then you can go ahead and start on 12DO composite. All right? Cool. Okay, so let's see. Let's clean it up a little bit. So you made a start at it anyway.
Yeah.
So let's see. Enamel hatchet.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have the blade against the axial wall, then I lean the instrument lingually. Then I can come down and use the upper corner of the instrument to cut into the facial wall and also to cut into the lingual wall. So lean the instrument away from the wall, use the upper corner to cut into the wall. Okay, so I see you've angled the gingival flora. Make sure you angle it all the way to the facial lingual walls. Okay, doubling the occipupal line angle is going to be a little hard because it's so short. But anyway, we're coming along and you're ready to start the DO on 12 pretty soon. Cool. Okay, so let's get the mirror cleaned off a little bit. So we worked on 5. So you got kind of some rough retentive grooves in there. They could be more precise than that. Okay, this guy, so your exit angle on the lingual is pretty obtuse, and you've got more clearance than you need, but we're not as worried about that. Facially, you don't have the clearance, and you certainly don't have any kind of a flat wall, so we can't evaluate the angle. Okay? So let's go back and work on the occlusal part a little bit more. So we can start by changing the exit angle on the lingual. Again, make sure the burr is vertical. Then from your margin, we're going to come straight in and adjust it however you want until you're happy with a 90-degree angle. Lift the burr vertical. So find the margin, get the angle, get the length. Then you can find the corner of the box more easily, about right here. Then get rid of the excess along that wall. On the facial, we're going to have to come out facially a little bit more. Notice I'm looking so I see exactly how close my burr is to the adjacent tooth.
Yeah.
I want to get it really close. And then keep it vertical. And then from that margin, cut straight in. We're going to adjust the angle until we get the angle that we want. And the length that we want. Once we have the margin and the angle and the length, then we get the curve to join the isthmus. Then we can find the corner of the box. And it's that corner that allows us to make the shape of the axial wall the way that we want. Okay, so get rid of the excess along that wall. You're going to go gingerly a little more to get more clearance right here, but you're almost there. Lean the burr a little more obviously toward the marginal ridge. So that way you can see the wall when you look down the axis. Keep the burr and the 330 burr on the occlusal, just keep the burr vertical all the time. Again, we're looking along the central groove so you can see exactly where you are. Okay, so go gingerly a little bit more, create a new axial wall that doesn't have the shape of what you have, using these corners. Oops, that's not too good. Like I said, change to get a new burr every time you do a prep. So drill a hole, cut this way, drill a hole, cut this way. You're going to have to go down to my gingival level, which is probably going to be a little bit deeper than you wanted to be, or than I wanted to be, but that's the way it happens. So if I'm drilling a hole here and the burr is not so sharp at the end, it might slip off that margin. That's exactly what happened. So I just illustrated what not to do. All right, so keep working on that. Okay, so you've still got a little hook.
Yeah, I know. It was really scared to touch them.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you learn how to look in the right direction so you know that you're not hitting it. But let's see. So right down there we got a hook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you've already hit the adjacent tooth, of course.
Okay.
So you afraid to hit it more? Okay, maybe. If you look this way, you never have to worry about hitting the adjacent tooth.
Okay.
Okay, so if I were to switch back to the 55 burr and if I look this way, I could smooth out that gingival floor, get rid of that step without having to be anxious about anything. But with this burr, I could put the burr parallel to that wall and then sort of come down that wall this way. And that gets rid of most of that step. And it makes a bevel that makes a smooth connection to the facial wall. And then bring it all the way over to join the lingual wall. So again, that's the amount of time that people are trying to save when they're not doing gingival bevels on, clinically. Not a whole lot of time. Okay, so change 4 and 5. Oh, that's interesting. How come I didn't notice this before? You were doing 4 DO before instead of 5. Right? I know this prep, but remember everybody was doing. Now, why do you suppose you mixed them up? Why do you suppose you did 4 DO instead of 5 DO? Well, nervousness has a way of bringing up a lot of uncertainties.
Uncertainties, that's true.
So what tooth is this?
That's a 5.
All right. In India, what tooth is it?
That's 1, 4.
All right. And this one over here?
6 or 4.
No.
1, 5 or 4. Sorry.
1, 5 or tooth number 4 in this country.
4, yeah.
So a lot of people get confused because 4 and 5 are reversed.
Yes.
Now 12 and 13, it's not exactly reversed for comparing 4 to 5, but 4 to 5 and 5 to 4 is confusing sometimes. And when you're in a little bit of stress, it's easy to allow that confusion to reign. So yeah, you did totally the wrong tooth. So notice, if the patient had decay on 5 and you did a prep on 4, that would be kind of embarrassing, wouldn't it?
Very much.
Yeah, but to be truthful, I didn't notice it either. I was just looking down here and just working on it. I should have pointed out to you immediately. Okay, so in any event, now I want you to do 4 MO, just like everybody else. Okay? Now, the good news is you won't have to change 5, just change 4, and then you can do 4 MO without damage on 5. You're good. Okay?
That's embarrassing. Okay.
Okay, so what do you think?
I think I failed with the proximal, facial proximal clearance.
Okay, not very much, huh?
Yeah, I tried to make it wider and I hit the tooth, and then I was thinking, yeah.
Okay, but there's a much more obvious problem in here.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Because it doesn't flare for composite. It should be
Okay, what do you have?
facial.
What do you have here? What's your exit angle?
Okay, that is the undermining angle left there.
Right. So you have an acute angle.
Yeah, acute
So
angle.
why didn't you fix it? Move the margin out to about here
Yeah.
and cut the angle in this way.
Okay.
Then you're all done.
Yep.
Okay, now of course it's composite, so you want an obtuse angle. This will give you an obtuse angle, but you got to get the margin out here.
Yeah.
And what about the lingual?
Lingual for me it looks okay.
Well, because you got too much clearance, but your exit angle is either 90 or a little bit acute.
Okay.
So if you want to move the margin out and then come in with an obtuse angle, that would be better.
Mm-hmm.
And what else did you notice?
And the isthmus width is just little too much, and it should be.
Yeah, but that's not a failing error.
And also, when I was making the dovetail, I just made a small nip there, lingually.
You mean right here?
There, yeah.
Okay.
That's something.
But the important thing is this wall should have been here instead of shifted. You went a little bit too much into the marginal ridge. So remember, include the pit, but don't get that close to the top of the marginal ridge.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
And my bevel is not prominent.
Yeah, I can hardly see anything that looks like a
Yeah.
bevel. But again, don't bevel until you have flat walls facially and lingually. You can't bevel from this margin because you have all this undermined enamel there.
Yeah.
So you have to fix that before you can make the gingival bevel. But yeah, really weak. And what else?
Um,
A lot of clearance, huh?
yeah.
So you've got, almost a millimeter gingival clearance, whereas you want just 0.5. So you went too deep gingivally. And what else?
And the axial wall is not smooth.
Well, I mean it's not shaped the correct way.
Mm-hmm. Because
Okay. What about the depth? What about the gingival floor width?
I think it is.
How much gingival floor width should you have?
Mm-hmm.
The width gingially, since you went too deep gingially, the gingival floor width should be less than it would normally be. Normally, it would be on a Kilgore type of maybe 1.3 or so. So you want about 1.1, but you're more like 2.
Yeah, almost 2. Yes.
So definitely overextended axially. That's your biggest problem.
Okay.
Other than the hook of undermined enamel there. So look this way so you know where your axial wall is. And keep it definitely closer to the outside surface, okay?
Okay.
All right. So anyway, so do something about that.
Yeah.
Then the next prep this afternoon is going to be 13 MO amalgam, but you're going to have to replace both 12 and 13 before you start on it. Okay? All right. Okay, so you can do a little bit more on that one. We have the deal that you're going to do over here. On 13, so what did you notice about 13?
So I think I went too deep in the to the purple floor.
Okay, so you're saying this wall is too tall?
Yeah, that wall is too tall.
Yeah, it's closer to 2 millimeters than 1.5.
Yeah, and also the wall angle at the margin.
Which margin?
Facially, it's too obtuse.
Yeah, so 90 degrees would have probably been more like this. Now, there's a sharp corner in the tooth, and if you get out too far facially and you get to where the corner is, it's harder to recognize where the tangent is. But I suspect it's something like this, and that little curvature toward the top is what's the biggest problem, really. Yeah. You've got undermined enamel at the top, but your overall thing is kind of obtuse. So you're acute right in this area, but you're obtuse for most of it. That's why you're having a hard time finding the corner. Okay, you got no corner on the facial side. You got more of a corner on the lingual side, but on the lingual side, you're leaning your burr lingually. When you look from the facial, everybody tends to lean the burr lingually away from their eye. So before you do anything, look this way. Make sure it's vertical facial lingually. Then look this way when you're doing it, and it's going to work out a lot better. Okay. And you'll notice that when you lean the burr lingually, it tends to create a concavity toward the top of the wall. Concavity gives it an acute angle. And a little bit overextended gingivally, and when you use the gingival margin trimmer, it'll get a little bit more clearance even than that. But you wouldn't want to use that until you're really clear that you've got nice flat walls and good exit angles, and vertical walls and well-defined corners. Then you're ready to use a hand instrument. Okay, so we definitely have a few issues here, but you could do a lot to fix it up. All right. I'm going to use your mirror because I left mine over there somewhere.
I did an MO on the tree.
Okay, and then you do the DO over here. There's a good contact, so that's good. All right, so what do you think so far?
So I think the clearance gingivially and facial and lingually is okay,
Well, they're all
but
different. You're closer here, less close over here, and then pretty far away down here. So if one of them's right, the other two are not.
yeah,
Okay.
and the
So
axial wall is something.
hold on a second now. So the gingival clearance is definitely more than a millimeter.
Okay.
So again, don't forget on a Kilgar typodont, you have to be really careful to go gingivally just a little bit,
Okay.
so you don't get too much clearance. When you go gingivally a lot, then you get, since the gingival embrasure is so big, you get a lot of clearance pretty fast. Okay, the distal pit, here's the facial groove. You're just a little bit past the pit, but I would probably go a little bit closer to the oblique ridge. So again, a third of the distance past the pit toward the top of the oblique ridge.
Okay.
So a little more distally. And then the millimeter and a half will give you the right pulpal floor position. So you're a little deeper pulpally, and then you went even deeper pulpally right in this area here, right? So that's probably why you went too deep gingivally. So we don't go deep gingivally just to get a taller axial wall. If you go too deep pulpally, don't go too deep gingivally. It won't make it better.
Okay.
All right, and your exit angles are pretty close. This clearance is probably a little bit too small,
Okay.
but the exit angle's pretty close. The axial could be a little more conservative here.
Okay. Not, I mean, to, okay.
Yeah, you're a little bit deeper axially than you should be. You could have been about right here. That would have been fine. Then maybe about over here instead of over there.
Okay.
But pretty close. Your isthmus width is okay. But again, watch the pulpal floor. You got to get this wall in the right place, and then make sure it's the right height. Then you know you have the pulpal floor position good here, and then keep it the same all the way back to the adjacent tooth.
Okay.
All right, and then so use your hand instrument. Trim up the margins, angle the gingival floor. I think you've done that already. And then put in a couple of retentive grooves since we're doing an amalgam here. Although I didn't specify it. Yeah, well, let's do an amalgam prep here. But so make some good retentive grooves.
Okay.
All right? All right, pretty cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so the lingual wall looks curved now, especially toward the gingival area. There's some curvature in your lingual wall, and any curvature is likely to produce undermined enamel. I'm just going to point with an explorer, but can't find an explorer anywhere. Okay. So anyway, here's a 90-degree angle, but that curvature down at the bottom is undermining the enamel at the margin, at the gingival area. Okay. I see a little bit of a retentive groove over here now. I'm not seeing much over here. Okay, so sharpen the corner a little bit more with a burr, flatten the wall, sharpen the corner with a hand instrument, then make sure you get a definite cut into the lingual wall. All right, so let's tighten the mirror up a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so you've cut some triangular ridges more than you need to.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have preserved the triangular ridge a lot more in this area and over here as well.
Okay.
And just go into the distal pit and then come right back again. You don't need to make a dovetail or anything. There's no need for that.
Okay.
Just go where the grooves are.
Mm-hmm.
Lean lingually a little bit more. Part of the time you're leaning buccally.
Mm.
Make sure it's leaning lingually. Make sure all the walls are the same height as the 330 burr.
Mm-hmm.
So just go right into that groove right there and then come straight back. Lean the burr lingually, you'll get more wall height here without having to extend into the triangular ridge.
Okay.
Okay, but you're close. But again, look this direction and you can see everything when you're doing it.
Yep.
You can see all the walls, the angle, and everything. Okay, and then you need this much clearance on the facial.
Okay.
All right, so no point in going gingerly if you know the margin is underextended. And lingually, by the time you get rid of a little bit of excess at that margin, you'll have a little bit more clearance, which would be good. So look this way when doing it. So get a little closer to the adjacent tooth and refine that wall.
Mm-hmm.
And now the clearance is, probably 0.4, something like that. So that's reasonable. Your exit angle is still a little bit obtuse. So you could change it to 90. Make sure it's far enough in so it's beyond where you want the axial, and then when you make the corner of the box, you have a very nice place to put it. Okay, so you got a little deep axially, especially on the facial side, but see on the facial side you had no outline helping you with the corner of the box. You see you don't have enough clearance, but your exit angle here is close to 90, but look how short it is. You stopped in the middle of the box and started making the curve. So find the margin with more clearance.
Okay.
Don't waste your time making an exit angle if you know you're not going to get enough clearance. So position that margin so you know you're going to have enough clearance when you get rid of that little hook. Then cut straight in, but cut in farther.
Okay.
Make a long wall. So find the margin, find the angle, get the length inward at the level of the pulpal floor.
Okay.
So when you're ready to go gingerly, it tells you where to put the corner.
Mm.
Instead of putting the corner way over here. So where the axial wall and the facial wall and lingual walls come together, it should be a square corner. And you get that by having flat facial lingual walls all the way from the margin to the axial wall. Okay, now we have a better corner, and the axial should have been going this direction. But you see, find the margin, find the angle, get the length, then it's easy to find the corner, and then your axial wall shape is going to be better. Okay, so a little more refinement. You got a little bit overextended gingerly. Okay, probably a little deeper pulpally than you needed to be here. Some of these walls are a lot taller than 1.5 millimeters. That's why you went too deep gingerly, because you were afraid you wouldn't have an axial wall. But we're not so worried about whether you have an axial wall. Okay, so obviously you're not going to go gingerly until you get your facial clearance way out here.
Mm.
And then a nice angle inward. It's going to be obtuse, angle inward, but make a nice long straight wall. Same thing over here, long straight wall.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can see where the corners of the box should be. So don't try to go gingerly until you get the occlusal outline done much better. Okay, and then on the distal marginal ridge, you want 1.5 millimeters tall wall, but get closer to the marginal ridge, lean the burr toward the marginal ridge, make a dovetail going facially, and that's separate.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a little extension into this groove here,
Mm-hmm.
and then the dovetail is going to be more over here. But again, get the wall heights. You're too short, but you've got that's the basic outline that we're expecting. But again, before you try to go gingerly, make sure you're happy with the occlusal outline. I don't think you're happy with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. All right, so just to review, you still got that little curvature at the bottom of the lingual wall on this one. And let me see. So yeah, you got a little bit more of a gingival bevel now, but your bevel doesn't quite connect to both the facial lingual walls. And again, it's always a lot easier to work if you define the internal line angles a little better.
Okay. That's good.
Really try to make it the shape of the burr.
Okay.
You're not going to sharpen it with a hand instrument because it's for composite. But still, the better defined you make those, the easier it is to do everything else when you're going gingivally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so over here. Okay, so now your facial exit angle is fine for composite. This is composite, right? I think, or is it amalgam?
That's an amalgam.
Okay, so lingual exit angle is fine for amalgam. But the facial is a little bit obtuse, yeah. And again, cut in a little bit farther before you start making a curve so it's easier to find the corner. And yeah, you've got your gingival floor angle. Make sure you angle it all the way to the facial lingual walls. We looked at the rest of the occlusal outline. But again, when you have a margin that you like and an exit angle that you like, make sure you come in farther, then make the curve.
Okay.
Then it's a little bit easier to make a nice, well-defined internal line angle right here.
Okay.
Again, the axial wall and the facial lingual wall should come together nice and square. Okay, so that's a pretty nice 90-degree angle right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think with a hand instrument, you'd make it perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the facial, it's a little bit obtuse. For amalgam, it's okay. But again, the more obtuse it is, the harder it is to define that corner, but you're pretty close at this point.
Okay.
And then this guy over here. Okay. Composite? Okay, so you haven't done the gingival bevel yet, obviously.
I tried.
Yeah, there's nothing that looks like a bevel there. Exit angle and lingual is pretty much 90 degrees.
Okay.
Almost acute. So, and then on the facial side you have curvature, which means it's a little bit acute. Okay, so you'll sit and look in this direction. And so if it's 90 and you want an obtuse angle, then you're going to have to move the margin a little bit. And then recut that angle in. Same thing here on the facial. See how close the burr is to the adjacent tooth?
Uh-huh.
The good news is I know exactly how close it is to the adjacent tooth. Then you're under control as long as you're looking in the right direction. Then you can get whatever exit angles you want, obtuse or whatever. So see the way what's left at the bottom of that wall is a hook?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we can get rid of that now by coming down the wall in the corner and then using the end of the burr and trimming off that excess as close as we can get to that margin. Then the last little bit with a hand instrument, and then you'll be fine. Okay, so you got a little extension into the lingual groove. Lean the burr to the marginal ridge, make a little bit of a definite dovetail. You make a dovetail here and an extension into the groove here. They're a little bit separate. That would be the nicest look. You're probably a little bit overextended in the triangular ridge right here. Check the height of this wall. I think you're pretty close to 1.5 millimeters. Okay, so we're pretty good. You could have been a little bit less extended axially. It's a composite prep, so you can keep it pretty conservative in that respect. And then make the gingival bevel.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
Cool.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.